Okay, my name is Matt Greenhall. I'm from the Durham Oriental Museum. The Oriental Museum, for those of you that know, is quite a small museum. It belongs to Durham University. Although it's quite small on the ground, it has really huge collections. We've far outgrown our premises. And Stories of the World in Durham is really about opening up these collections, the vast majority of which are in store. So they're not seen by the public, they're not interacted with, people don't really get to see them at all. So in Stories of the World, we've had a real focus on actually opening up the stores, not just going into the stores, but working in them. And in Durham, we've got a group of around 25 young people. It's a group mix of local school and college students, and also local university students. And then have been working together as one group on their exhibition, Made in China, which looks at British relations with China from 1500 to the present day. Now, the way the young people have been approaching this is really to look at objects in as many different ways as possible. How many stories can one object tell? How many interpretations can we have of a single object? So in Durham, what we've been trying to do is combine our Chinese collections in the Oriental Museum with our archival collections in the university archives, some of the first and earliest maps of China, for example, produced by European travellers, people's receipts for purchasing Chinese goods in the 17th and 18th centuries, and some really nice personal paper collections. And combining these museum collections, archival collections, with then oral history, with sorts of diaspora communities, and also creative partnerships, trying to understand our collections better, trying to recreate them. Will we understand our porcelain collections better if we try our hands at making some porcelain? So a whole different series of ways of exploring the collections we have via handling them within the museum, archival exploration, source and diaspora community oral history, and also creative practices. So the exhibition we're working on at the moment is called Made in China. It's going to launch in June, so we're fast approaching our deadline. And Made in China is exploring British connections with China right from 1500 to the present day. Not only in terms of objects, but really in terms of memories and interpretations. Getting the young people's perspective on the collections we have within the museum, but also speaking to people in China and also within the local diaspora communities of their ideas. This exhibition really depends on the museum giving the young people full access to the collections and to stores. We are a very small operation, with a very small staff and a very small budget. This wouldn't work unless we gave young people almost complete full responsibility for the project. Now, I'll just give a few examples of how we're doing this. Unfortunately, the vast majority of our young people can't be here today because they're at school or college, but they set themselves a challenge on Saturday of producing a video paper. So, by the power of modern technology, sort of Eurovision format, we're going to be transported to Durham, and you'll be able to see their opinions and some of their ideas, what they're doing, and what they're going to do in the session. So I won't speak for much longer. But really, just to reiterate what we're doing, at the moment the young people are exploring the collections and starting to build object lists. Finding objects both in the store, on the floor of the museum, but also by the museum's catalogue, actually having a bird's eye view of the museum's collections, actually getting to see all the stuff that we have, and also have complete access. Seeing these collections and then being able to interact closely with them, to record their own opinions, their own interpretations, actually to get up close and personal with the objects. Coupled with this is then what I mentioned, actually being able to complete real historical research into these collections. Not just seeing the items as a historical curiosity, but actually being able to be given access to actually get a taste of the time from which these objects came, by actually being able to go into archives and actually see some of the collections. And it's the young people's intention to actually combine museum objects and archival material in the actual exhibition for the idea of putting these things together. The other thing we've done a lot of work on is actually understanding the context of museum objects. Very few objects in our museum were ever designed to be in a museum. Where have they come from? How have we obtained them? So at the start of this year's project, the young people went on a series of different workshops, including archaeological digs, to get an understanding of where museums get their collections from, what is the context from where much of our collections come from. But also something that was really interesting, the young people were looking at archaeological evidence for Chinese trade in Durham. So searching through archaeological collections which have been discovered in Durham to try and link these to the museum's collections, this idea of China actually coming right to Durham. The other big thing that we've been working on recently is working with source and diaspora communities, both in Britain, in Newcastle in particular, the Chinese student community in Durham, but also we're now looking to make contact with people in China themselves. Listening to memories, completing a lot of oral history, and actually getting a new interpretation, a new perspective on some of the ideas young people are putting forward. And then finally, the idea of actually having creative elements, understanding collections through actually creating collections. So that's almost all I've got to say, and then I'll just show you the video clip that they produced. I've just put this object up. This is how it all started, this approach. The young people Stories of the World had an exhibition in Durham last year. This is our second Stories of the World exhibition. And this object was in that exhibition. And initially, it looks just like a fairly ordinary 18th century snuff bottle. But when the young people started looking at it, started investigating it, it actually turned out to be a really interesting piece. And one of the young people found this clip, which is just beside it, which is a newspaper record from snuff being sold in Durham. What initially appeared to be this sort of rather random, isolated, very distant object, suddenly, through the discovery of this archival material, it came rushing home to Durham itself. These objects are actually used on the streets of Durham. So actually made it very real. So that's enough from me. I will now find the YouTube source of file. This video was shot on Saturday on an extremely low budget, but I think it did incredibly well. So this is the story so far, recorded by the young people.